What did you just say? What did you just say, Cooper?
I would rather pay my healthcare insurance right now than have it for free because I don't want freeloaders going off my health insurance.
How much did you say it was for?
My ambulance ride to the hospital was $3,400 in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. on a Sunday, and I understood that that's my fault. Okay.
And how much do you think that's what we should pay?
All of it
for health insurance.
But I also have.
This is a Republican.
I understand. I'm a Republican. Put this on Facebook, motherfucker. I don't care.
I deleted my Facebook,
and I will pay it again.
I'll put it on TikTok. Though.
I will pay it again.
You will pay it again. Please don't.
You did pay it again. You paid it like 6 months later when you had to do like $4,000 to get your heart checked out.
No, I didn't. It was like 1. Okay.
The video you just saw would be funny if in fact it weren't so sad. That young man was joking about having to pay over $3,000, $3,400 to be exact, for an ambulance ride. He made it clear that he would much rather pay for his health care than to be a freeloader. Now I wonder where he got the impression that somehow having universal health care would make one a freeloader.
You know, I have such great access to medical. It's good to be president, I guess.
It seems like Donald Trump made a really good case for universal health care the other day.
It's a lot easier for me than somebody that's, doesn't have access to a doctor so easily, where it's a big deal to see a doctor.
You sure did, Ali.
The doctors at Walter Reed were incredible.
Last weekend at Walter Reed Medical Center, President Trump received the highest degree of health care in the world, and it was on the taxpayer's dime.
This is an incredible hospital, Walter Reed.
According to the New York Times, the treatment that the president received would have cost the average American at least $100,000 in medical expenses. That estimate is on the low side.
I'll be the doctor here, and I promise you no copay.
Okay. Sounds good to me, Mark.
Senator, good to see you. You tweeted, Mr. Trump, guess what? The Walter Reed Hospital you were at, where you claimed you got excellent, high-quality care, that is a 100% government-funded, government-run, dare I say, socialist facility.
What they're doing is socialized medicine, and it's not acceptable.
And even his friends who were clowning him could not really get him to understand that the way that he is framing healthcare and what is happening is not right. That it's not good for him, and it's not good for anyone. Let's go deeper. Now, the fight to ensure that we have universal healthcare in this country did not just start in the 21st century. This fight was waged also in the 20th century. Did you know that originally Medicare as it exists right now was supposed to be Medicare for all, not just for those who are 65 years and older, but it was supposed to be for everyone. But because of a bad partisan type of politics, that did not happen. Thank goodness we do have Medicare for our elders, 65 and older. But this indeed would be a much better country if we had Medicare for all. And why is it that we in the United States of America, we are the only industrialized nation that does not have some form of universal health care? I'm so glad you asked the question, why? It is because of the owner donors. It is because of the private health insurance industry controls the politicians, or many of the politicians on Capitol Hill. The commodification of healthcare is big business. And of course, those interests do not want to see that profit margin, that profit motive go away. And so they rally extraordinarily hard to keep the status quo. The status quo just won't do. Over 60% of Americans believe that the federal government should play a stronger role in ensuring that all Americans have health care. Imagine if health care were not attached to a job, the quality of life for so many would increase, because people would have the freedom to do different things because they would not have to worry about health care. Not only would it help individuals and communities and help better health outcomes, it is actually more economically viable for us as a nation to have universal health care. We pay right now 2/3 of healthcare costs in this country through the federal, state, and local branches of government, meaning we already fund healthcare, but we don't fund it in a way that is robust. So why not join all the other industrialized nations in this country and have universal health care? Why not take that burden off of individuals and also businesses, pull all of our money together within a social contract that truly gets the health outcomes that we need and that we deserve?
Nearly 100% of the reason why the United States is the only country in the world that doesn't define healthcare as a right and doesn't have any sort of national healthcare system to speak of is because of racism.
No American should be shocked or even pretend to be naive about the fact that America's healthcare system has never served Black people in a manner that it serves others.
There was this guy named Frederick Ludwig Hoffman who came over here from Germany. He married this Southern belle from Georgia who was from a racist plantation family. And so he ran the numbers on Black people and found that Black people were dying, dropping like flies, more likely to be sick, more likely to die of pretty much everything. And concluded, which was the general consensus at the time among a lot of white people in the South, this is again in the 1890s, that Black people were genetically inferior. And in 1896, he published a book called Race, Tendencies, and Traits of the American Negro, in which he lays out all the numbers, and then he concludes that if we simply avoided allowing Black people to have any access to health care, that within 2 or 3 generations, the whole race would die out, and that would solve the race problem in America. Now, it sounds kind of crazy when I just lay it out like that right now, but this led to a whole bunch of things. By the 1920s, this was referred to as scientific racism. He was testifying about it before Congress. When Teddy Roosevelt, 1912, proposed a national health care system, people said no because Black people will get it. When Franklin Roosevelt proposed a national health care system, it was the same thing. We don't want Black people to get it. When Truman tried it in 47, same thing. Don't want Black people to get it. Right up until 1965, Senator Stennis, the Dixiecrats in the South, was quoting Hoffman, who was by then dead, but is still very famous in this field, as saying this, we have to figure out a way to keep Black people from using Medicare. This is when they were passing Medicare. And the way that they came up with was to have a 20% hole, a gap in Medicare, so that you had to pay 20% of your doctor's bill and your hospital bill, and that would discourage poor Black people from showing up at the hospitals.
The fact that Frederick Ludwig Hoffman used science to prevent this country from having universal health care so as to kill Black people seems par for the course. This man was more racist or no less racist than the rest of white people who supported or subscribed to white supremacy. It was Ludwig Hoffman who said that Black people were born to be diseased and to die. The idea that our race could not evolve or had not evolved because of our skin color was what he based it on. He used the fact that Black people were not where white people were in the 15 or 20 years after slavery. The problem with that is we were not where white people were because of 100 years of oppression and also a continuation of that oppression. To pretend that the Freedmen's Bureau was enough to elevate Black people from 1896 to 1920 to the level of where white people were, who had centuries of racism, government assistance, and also not mentioning profiting off of Black people, is beyond ridiculous. This is the pseudo-scientific method of white supremacy. That's all it is. Hoffman and others who subscribed to this idea even before 1896. You can see it through slavery, because how else can you humanize or dehumanize a people enough that you call them chattel in your constitution? You count them less than you count other humans, and by God, you say you own them. You say you own them. So this idea that people, Americans, are still languishing, not just Black people, all Americans. Consider the fact that Cuba has had universal health care since the 70s. This country pretends to be the greatest country in the world, yet and still we see the systems of white supremacy killing not just Black people, but other Americans. And while we make up the lowest rung of social markers because of these institutions, because of these systems, what we see is the dangerous and disgusting actions of America's white supremacy that's willing to kill everybody to wipe out Black people.